Hello, everyone. Welcome again. This is the second edition of the Big XR News Show. My name is Cureton, Senior Journalist for XR Day, and we are bringing you the latest and greatest from the VR, AR, and XR industries. We're having a full-fledged panel today. It's great to see everyone here from lots of different parts of the world. Let's go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience, and we'll go ahead and kick off this conversation. We'll start with you, Jay.
Hey, hello. Yeah, Jay Latta. I'm currently in Munich. Before my tour schedule starts again, I'm running my own think tank. And here on top of everything, what I'm exploring is, of course, immersive tech, because this is, in my opinion, one of the most interesting technologies or areas, because it helps us to decomplexitize our highly complex world, and it explains all the other hot shit around.
Brilliant. We're going to take it over to you, Aditya.
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Aditya Prabhugaunkar. I'm from India, but I live in Paris. I'm the marketing manager at Kinetix, and Kinetix is a startup that's specializing in artificial intelligence motion capture for the metaverse. And we're building a lot of technology which is to do with game development, metaverse development, with marketplace integration, and actually humanizing the metaverse to allow users to express themselves in the metaverse. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. We're going to take it over to that unfamiliar face here. We have Mr. Rory. Take it.
Hi, I'm also a technology journalist for XR Today, equally bringing you the latest and greatest in XR, AR, MR, VR news, of course. And it's a pleasure to join here. It's going to be great to talk about and break down some of these news stories.
Great. I'm just poking fun at you. Roy's an amazing technology journalist. He's working really hard to cover all the news around. Colleague, and also good musical taste as well. So take it to the next person, Amelia.
Hello, I am Amelia Kallman. I'm a futurist. I'm also the host of XR Star podcast, which is also on YouTube, as well as the series Blockchain in the Metaverse, and of course, the big reveal.
Excellent. Now we're going to take it over to Kevin.
Hey folks, Kevin O'Donovan, Irish guy, live in the south of France. I'm a technology evangelist. I've spent my career bridging the gap between the art of the possible with new technologies and what's actually feasible for various companies. And that depends on who you are, what you're trying to do, and whatever. But certainly, I know many of you folks here, and the whole XR, digital twins, industrial metaverse space is a fascinating place to be right now.
Okay, so first up, we're going to cover a lot of the topics and titles that we have on the list for today. We're going to start with the first story, which is Spot Selfie, which has created a Web3 powered AR meta store, which allows a lot of people on university campuses to, start their own businesses and create an entire metaverse ecosystem. So we're going to start with, I guess we'll do Amelia and Jay. Now, could you tell us a little bit about this story? What do you think is the benefit of having such kind of AR technologies to help businesses, on university campuses or other types of location-based services? What can you tell us about that?
I'm happy to kick off. So I actually really love this story. I've been talking about geolocated augmented reality for a while, and I love that they're introducing this to university students because I think they're a really prime target audience for this kind of interaction. They're already accustomed to things like e-commerce. So now we're moving into what I call v-commerce and in this kind of virtual stores and marketplace. I think it's also really important because we know that all the major technology companies are trying to move us towards this idea of having a third device. So towards the end of this decade, they'll want us all to have augmented reality glasses. And for that to work, we need to have use cases. So if we start building these stores that are geolocated, I think this really is a good incentive to get people involved in checking it out. So I am also curious kind of how they're going to monetize this, like what their revenue model is. And I think it's also good to consider that with these kind of places, we're going to need to monitor these places, design them. There's going to be things like subleases. This is a whole new industry emerging, and I find that really cool.
Yes. I've been a little bit smiling when I've been reading this article. Of course, it's super important, especially on the campus, that the students start to experiment with this. The monetization, honestly, right now, I don't give a damn. Because what we should focus on is to make this technology as sexy as possible. The use cases to explore how the UI, how the UX should be, instead of right now thinking to make crap loads of money. Because the big danger is, if we are running sooner or later with our AR devices, whatever around, that this really dangerous stuff could happen, that everything will be plastered with commercials, that you don't see anything, that you need to pay a premium, whatever, to get less commercials. Maybe we will need sooner or later then some kind of private filters, private firewall, simply to get rid of all of this nonsense. So here it's important as first not to think about how to remonetize it, but simply the best approach, because it's on us, the technologists, the creators, the visionaries, and so on, to define how we will use this tool. Instead of, from the first moment on, like many companies, simply thinking, okay, here is a new bullshit show, how to make money.
Right. And we have a lot of times, the people creating these devices, they're having to kind of create the standards, the operational structure of how they will operate. And also, there's a lot of ethical questions that are going to go into that people still have not quite yet tackled. Did anyone else want to jump in on that particular part of the subject? Kevin, how about you? Or who else wants to jump in?
I suppose what I found fascinating about it was that the spatially distanced ads. So the point being was that you're back to kind of real estate within a property, right? Whereas the high footfall, so your ad is there, as opposed to everyone's ad is in the same place. And then to Jay's point, I don't see anything, so I just walk by. So I found that fascinating. But again, it's kind of back to the business model. So if I'm a college, maybe I have a sole provider. So I have one app and I have one set of real estate, for want of a better, where I see the different things. And the whole thing here is, AR, VR. If you don't try it, you don't understand it, right? So the more you get people to use the stuff, and that works, this doesn't, that's cool, that's not, whatever. So that's brilliant. But I'm thinking, like, if you're in a city or a shopping mall or whatever, and if you have multiple providers, they use different apps and you have multiple apps, and it becomes, to Jay's point, it becomes a bit like kind of if I was at Minority Report, right, when you're walking down the street and all the stuff's coming at you. But hey, good for them. I wish them well. And how they make money, if I knew that answer, I don't know. But I think it's a good initiative.
Yeah, and definitely it's kind of like a closed system for like university campuses or a specific place. You know how a lot of telco companies will have a kind of a test bed or a sealed area, an enclosed sandbox space where they would probably test it out. Hopefully it doesn't go all over and then we're just bombarded like in Blade Runner 2030, whatever the name of that movie was. But yeah, we're going to jump right over to the next question. We're going to start talking about Bigscreen. So we go from Spot Selfie to Bigscreen. This was the world's smallest headset. And there's a lot of potential with this particular company because they do sell headsets that are about $1,000 US. But they have quite interesting technologies. For example, face contouring allows you to, use it depending on like your face, completely bespoke. And also there's a lot of kit underneath the hood. So we're going to go to Rory Grainer and Aditya. We're going to get you to answer this question, our tech journalists, to kind of cover exactly what you think about this headset. Now, for you, I'd like to ask you, like, why is it important to have challengers in the XR hardware market, and how will this help to drive innovation?
I think definitely it's important to note the fact that Meta has somewhat of a foothold, at least on UK, US markets to a certain degree, especially towards consumer markets, and they're trying to expand that towards enterprise and industrial and education and healthcare as well. But I think that isn't something that might even continue with the emergence of, say, the Bigscreen device, as well as other options from Pico, HTC, and the list goes on. I think we're seeing more competitive VR or MR devices coming out with competitive specs at a competitive price. And I think Bigscreen is just one of the many examples of that. Equally, within that, I think we're also seeing components such as chipsets being integrated on numerous headset brands, not just, say, Meta's one technology hierarchy that is perhaps being flattened with these integrated components being a little bit more accessible to all. And that also really mirrors the technology itself becoming more accessible, devices becoming a little bit more affordable. Goes up and down, I think, because obviously the Meta Quest Pro was pretty expensive in terms of a consumer device, but the next iteration, the Meta Quest 3, may be that answer. And I think it also, with the small form factor of the big screen, I think it also helps with the idea of just general device adoption. You know, comfortability and I guess device invisibility are key to drive adoption, much like how easily it is to pick up a smartphone and use it. Headsets probably need to do the same thing. So the big screen device really just reflects competitive specs, competitive prices, an increasingly competitive market for very much for consumer, but I think equally just as much for industry and enterprise too. So a lot of really good stuff there, really, with that device release. A lot of good reflections.
Absolutely. Aditya, would you like to jump in on that one?
Yeah, I think it's very important to have competitors in the market. Competition and innovation, they go hand in hand. Like 80% of the CEOs, they'll agree you need to be innovative to be competitive. And I totally want to point out, like in the past, Apple came out with the smartphone, and then the whole race began where everybody wanted to be competitive and they wanted to innovate. So you can see the amount of innovation that's come in smartphones. That's insane. And the same thing is going to happen with VR headsets. Right now, Meta, I think, controls about 90% of the VR headset market. And by the mid of this year, Apple's coming out with their own product. I think it's very important to have players because as a customer, I want the best product, right? Like that's what, and you have to create value for a customer. So I think having as many competitors is really, really crucial for this, for the market to grow.
Defo. And we also see quite a bit of innovations taking place in this. For example, Meta has its, unique pass-through, full-color pass-through, and then a lot of other competitors and rivals started to do that as well. With theirs, you have the Lenovo VRX, which is more focused towards the enterprise and has its own set of specifications. A lot of them are also using Qualcomm's different platforms, like the XR2, and then also for smart glasses, the AR2, which is opening up a lot of possibilities for people to create their own types of unique headsets with the right amount of capital in that project. Did anyone else want to jump in on that one?
So I slightly disagree with this. The user wants the best experience. The user wants the best device. This is not really true because it depends on what do I use it for. For example, the big screen, due to its lightweighted design and so on, would be ideal as a travel device. When I'm hopping into some kind of heavy compute, high-end, whatever, I prefer my 8K X-Tal system, honestly. Then I have as well my monster machine that I cannot carry around. So more or less it's about, through standards, to have, let's say, as well some kind of XR as a service where this multimodality that needs to come, especially when we talk about the metaverse, where it doesn't matter what device you have. You will have in future, I promise you, multiple devices for the high resolution stuff, for the travel stuff, for AR only, for VR only, and so on. And it's simply this XR as a service should simply bring you the digital assets that are visible in every device, even if you use your smartphone. And then if you turn on the VR functionality, that it as well creates the whole room. So here it's about interoperability. It's about a multimodal approach. And these devices, therefore competition is very important. They are setting benchmarks. So if they make something lightweighted, someone else will come. I'm very curious about the devices that hopefully Apple will bring out, because they will definitely set up a completely new benchmark. So for me, this competition is important if we push it into the right way, simply to bring the variety of these devices, that you simply have the choice of these multiple devices. And of course, Meta, my very special buddies, they tend for a lock-in. So imagine, for example, healthcare use cases. Many due to the regulation, many simply forbid that you use a meta platform. So therefore, set up a benchmark, do something independent. They can do whatever sorry for my language. They can do whatever they want to do. We have this variety of simply to choose and to use it in the use cases that we need. My statement.
Yeah, if I may just to add to that, and folks are right in that Meta have a certain percentage today, but certainly in the industrial space, as Jay says, in healthcare, industrial energy, it's the other providers, right, for enterprise use cases, and I can't use a Meta account or blah, blah, blah. And yes, Meta have significant market share today in the consumer world, but like we're still talking about, what percent of the addressable market of the number of people on the planet have VR or AR headsets, right? So it's fraction. So there's plenty of room. So the more competition, you said it, the more innovation, keep everyone on their toes, right? So good for them.
With Meta's Quest Pro, there was one time where the added competition actually drove down the price a few $100 or a few hundred quid. So that's something that we'll also see and that we'll actually reap the benefits from. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we're going to jump straight over to the next question. We'll talk a little bit about Matt Collishaw and Krivoruchko. They created kind of a new kind of Web3 art, which was entitled Heterosis. And this was quite a fascinating type of display. At the exhibition, what they did is they basically created a moving piece of artwork, which allowed people to own them as NFTs in the OpenSea kind of a platform. And also it allowed people to see something evolve over time. So each one has its own unique properties. Now, we're seeing massive developments in the Web3 space, especially related to Web3 artwork. Now, fun question for you all. Have you ever visited an AI or blockchain driven artwork? And have you got any of your own in your own collections? Let's start with Amelia, and we'll go also with Rory. We're going to try that.
Yeah, sure. So one of the quotes I pulled out was that this is art that could not exist in any context other than the metaverse. And I think that's really a powerful concept. I'm interested to know about what their price point is on the NFT. I think, to me, there's a part of this whole Web3 thing with blockchain at its core that when it comes to NFT ownership and true ownership, that it really puts commerce at the center of Web3. And I don't know if that is selling the whole vision short. There's if it's only this kind of like monetary incentivization as opposed to a creative one, a creative one feels a bit more inclusive than something that, people who have expendable income, can buy NFTs and be a part of this new ecosystem. So I have questions around that. And also we love nature. And I, in and outside of the metaverse. So I have questions too about how this impacts the real world. Is money being raised that's going to help, save the rainforest? Is, what is the carbon footprint? By participating in this and the data and all this kind of stuff, is it actually, doing more damage than good? So I have questions, but I do love the concept. And as art, I think it's really kind of beautiful and fascinating, and yeah, I'm interested to see more things like this.
I just echo the exact same opinions. Obviously, it's art that's led by technology, much like film or game at the same time, and that has a completely different approach than more conventional, perhaps, forms of art. And I think it's just important to have the correct consideration, the correct curation with these arts, and how we actually go ahead and not only monetize them, but maybe how do we archive them? How do we look after these pieces, and how do we properly recognize what is being made? And then also, to your point, Amelia, about the carbon footprint, it's an emerging artistic landscape. Most artistic endeavors have an effect on the planet, and I think that's a good point to note, and maybe not enough people are fully exploring that side of things as well. So I think those are important points to more generally look at this piece, or this news piece, excuse me.
Yep, definitely. I think that, a few other things that people can explore is the fact that they use artificial intelligence to interact with the audiences. So, for example, Matt Collishaw, he had an entire XR display which allowed people to interact with characters, which would evolve the story depending on the individuals that were there. And that was his Bedlam art exhibit. And then you have other ones from Refik Anadol, which I actually visited in Coventry, my old stomping ground, as we call it. Yeah, he had an amazing AI-driven kind of art space, and also kind of 4D XR art space that was crafted from a lot of NASA images. I think there were about 2 billion involved. So these are things that we have never heard of before in the past. Did anyone else want to jump on that before we go to the fourth question?
Sorry, again, me. I have an opinion to each of these questions. So the thing is, as first, I have a small issue with NFTs. Because mostly NFTs are just a symlink in a blockchain onto a third-party server, and you don't really own the asset. It's right now changing so that you have as well the NFT or the artwork embedded in the NFT. Fine, nice. I am a classic art collector. I love all of these new things. So I have, for example, one request from a few guys from the Broadway, how we can, with immersive technologies, change the whole stuff in the Broadway. Here it's about, right now, it's sexy, it's cool. But from my experience, the art that I have, sometimes I enjoy it the whole week and then I don't look at it for half a year. So art is something that needs to fit my emotions. Art is emotions. So here, if I have something digital around where I have to boot up a computer to go into it and so on, how often will I use it? Is it something that I will simply ignore for 2, 3, 4, 5 years until I sell it? Oh, damn it, I have still some bits and bytes of this. So how to preserve it to be your everyday's joy? Here we are talking about the carbon footprint, about energy consumption and so on. So again, a multimodal approach. Metaverse is about multimodal interoperability. It's in fact a mixed reality experience. So imagine, for example, having an e-ink hanging somewhere on the wall with this virtual art. And if you want to interact with it, if you want to explore it in the full beauty, then you hop into an experience. This is still, I think we still have, let's say, 7, 8 years to explore the whole variety, the whole bunch of possibilities until we figure out. You know the artwork from Anna Zhiliava, right? This would be completely beautiful, having it preserved in a holographic display. Then you can wander around, do something. I would, for example, love to have the Starry Night from Van Gogh. Of course, not hanging on the wall, but as an experience that my whole room can change into this. This would be beautiful.
Yeah, they're experimenting with a lot of those mediums, especially for like beyond. I think it was Oasis Immersive and Beyond Digital. They had similar kind of projector screen type displays that they could use, and they were actually using physical and digital objects to kind of merge the two realities together. Anyone else have any opinions about that?
Like adding to Jay's point, to be honest, like, you know, there are a lot of metaverse experiences that are already incorporating the NFT art. Like, I don't know if you know, like the game Sandbox, they have an entire art gallery within itself. You can go as a player, you can go and you can view each and every NFT which is up on display, right from women in Web3, Bored Ape Yacht Club. So they have everything. So I feel like the blockchain is a very nice way to preserve artwork because you know when it was minted, it's on a particular date, it's on a particular block, you know it's authentic. Otherwise, the biggest thing about art is like it's a lot of times it's fake. So you don't know if it's really authentic. It's only when you own you know the exact hash number, the block number. So I think art is really good. It's going to go really well with the blockchain technology.
But you don't have you can't be sure that the artist or whomever makes money with it has not minted it several times on multiple blockchains. It just tells you it's this one time. So you see only this one perspective, what they gave you. So more or less, this NFT is nothing else than just an invoice or some kind of paper. When you buy something, you get the ticket. That's it. So here, as long we don't really have the full transparency of this stuff, that we as consumers, we as owners cannot really everyone in this round verify that it was really minted just once, and Jay is the owner.
I play devil's advocate with that, Jay. No, and you're right? That, granted, if I do multiple blockchains and whatever, and human nature hasn't changed either, right? So some people will find ways of whatever. I'll sell you the original version, and I'll sell it to someone else as well. But you made a very valid point in terms of, how will we use it, and wouldn't it be nice to have? I have the real thing on the wall, like everything. To be honest, it comes back to how you perceive value. You collect artwork, right? I don't. I collect old books.
Me too.
And they sit on a shelf so that I can look at them as I walk past once a year. So how will people, whether it's an NFT, in Sandbox, I'll create something. I'll get my friends. My NFT in the Sandbox. Go walk past it. I get value. So I think what's interesting with the way they're doing this as well is they're linking so many technologies. They used Unreal to create the digital twin, the futuristic version or whatever of the London location. You have interactivity. They're telling stories. There's probably a gamification thing. I'm fascinated with the whole, token economics of the thing. Well, Jay has a flower and you have a flower, and I combine them, and I have to pay for your genes and what. So again, it's like some people will derive value from that. So I think it's a good. It'll be interesting to see how it played out. And it's like when we got the smartphone, we didn't know what it would be used for, right? Half the time. And now we have apps and use cases we never dreamt of. I think it's the same with this.
Amelia, I was going to quickly check also. If you want to jump in, go ahead.
I was just going to say one point. I think as a culture, we have started to think of digital as disposable. You put up a story, a picture, whatever. It's people like it for a second. It's gone. You don't go back to it. And I think that was a good point that was made earlier. Maybe this is cool. We play with it today. But is that stuff just going to be sat there for the next 10, 20 years? Are you ever going to revisit it? Because the new hot thing's always going to be coming out. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And time will tell. I guess it also depends on the owner themselves, what their habits and their behaviors are, when interacting with their art. Is it just something to collect, put on the shelf, use for status, or is it something that really elicits kind of emotional response? Excellent points, everyone. I just wanted to go ahead and jump quickly into the last question because I know we're a bit pressed for time. I wanted to fit this last one in. We talk a little bit about Nokia. They have created some very powerful insights in a recent interview with XR Today. They talk about how the ICT networks can enable industrial metaverse technologies. And I wanted to ask you guys, in your opinion, how can telecoms work to improve infrastructure needed to facilitate the metaverse? And what areas should they focus on? This is going to be quite a big, expansive topic because of the nature of telecoms and the fact that there's a lot of upscaling that they have to do in order to accommodate future metaverse technology. So we'll get Kevin and we'll get Jay on this one. And anyone else that wants to jump in.
So certainly when it comes to industrial metaverse, or actually any metaverse, XR, VR experience, the way we use networks is critical, right? And it depends on, because it's a collaborative experience. So I need good bandwidth, and good has a new definition. I think what Nokia are doing, and a lot of the stuff they're doing in industry today with 5G networks, private 5G networks, even for the IoT systems we see in factories today, right? You need better comms, right? So that's playing in. You then start putting people in with augmented reality experiences for workers or design or whatever. Not all the data is going to be stored on the device when they walk out the door, right? You're going to have to be up and down. And, we talk about 5G today. We're talking about 5G advanced, which is the kind of the next iteration. And the main benefit of that is that it increases the upload speed. Because if you look at most of the telco networks on the planet today, it's like, 20% going up, 80% down. You have a VR interactive experience, it's kind of 50-50. So you need to start reconfiguring networks. There's more data. And recently at a big industrial thing, people were saying, we get all the data and we take it to the cloud and we bring it back and we see it in real time and we simulate and whatever. And someone made the point, but the speed of light is not as fast as we think it is. We'll have to do a lot more locally, edge compute, whatever. And then you need something like 5G in the factory, right? It's not just going to the cloud anymore. So there's every time we'll remove a bottleneck somewhere, we get better headsets, then we need to feed it with more data on a bigger bandwidth. So again, we're just starting out, and they're talking about 6G. 6G is maybe 2030, but and I'm sure when 6G does arrive, we'll probably find ways of eating all that content or all that comms bandwidth as well, right? So
Absolutely. Yeah, Jay, how about yourself?
Yes, telcos. Telcos. I have some experience with telcos when it came into digital twins, into all of these private networks, when it came into Industry 4.0 and so on and so on. Of course, here it's an easy game because there is always someone who pays for the infrastructure. When it comes into connecting you with a company, connecting you through the telcos, then it becomes a little bit tricky. Here in my house where I am, I have, if I pull out my phone, then I have edge connectivity. If I go to the other side of the room, I have LTE. If I leave the house, go onto the street, maybe if I'm lucky, I have 5G. So the telcos, I know many brilliant people work there, but these companies are more or less ruled by controllers and accountants. It's about budgets. It's about how can I remonetize it. So they just think, let's say, from the paint to the wall. That simply it is. Money, the profitability is their biggest motivation. So they will not give a damn about what to do good to you guys. It's the bandwidth. Yeah, of course, if I can tweak it a bit and charge you more, this is their interest. So here, more or less, I see the huge danger that they simply make not innovation, they make iterations just to grab as much profit as possible. This is something that scares me. We here in Germany, we still live this kind of, I have my 15 gigabyte, 20 gigabyte flat rate per month from my phone. This is crap. You can't do anything with this. If it comes into mobile metaverse experiences, or anything faster than this. It's not just the bandwidth, it's the latency and so on. So here the telcos should simply start thinking forward, not cannibalizing long-term strategies to short-term profits, but really giving us value. And here the value means use it, do with it whatever you want, and then you can develop use cases. This is my statement. I mean, when a telco calls me, Jay, do you know any kind of cool startup that makes something with 5G? Hey, I'm not doing your job, right?
Right. That's very true. And, there's a lot of ways to expand on it. Like, Amelia, before you have to go, I know time's fleeting at the moment. Is there anything that you'd like to add about it?
Yeah, I would just say, infrastructure is so important, and it is going to be the foundation of this meta hybrid future, which is physical, digital, and virtual. And that is where we're going. That's where it's headed. And that is so necessary to get us to where we all want to be in this industry.
Absolutely. Great. Any 30-second comments from Rory, Grainer, or Aditya?
I could jump off and do the first comment if you want to close it off after me. I just really want to echo what Kevin said, really about the idea of it's not just 5G interconnectivity and infrastructure, it's also the headsets that people are using, it's all the other integrated technologies. And again, to sound like a broken record from what I said earlier on, I think a lot of it is down to accessibility. So it's brilliant that we have all these other technologies such as telecoms infrastructures, such as increasingly accessible headsets. But maybe we should also think about the applications that are going on here, what applications are actually going to leverage all this technology to. And it's a big synergy of various moving elements that are really going to come together to make the 5G networks be able to stream fantastic immersive content. So there's a lot going on there.
Yeah. Absolutely. Last but not least, Adi.
Yeah, I think like the telcos are doing a really good job. We are partnering with a lot of big players in the VR headset side because like VR headset, the amount of data you require is 5 to 40 times than streaming an HD quality video. So that's a lot of data. So they have to source it out locally. Then they have to contribute. They have an opportunity with cloud computing, especially with AI. AI requires a lot of computing. And today there are just two players. It's Google or it's Amazon. So they have a big opportunity there. And you can see now, like Meta just partnered with Verizon, if I'm not wrong, to deliver on headsets. And I think Yep. Apple, like Meta, is going to give the hardware part of it, and Verizon is going to supply the apps and everything. So there's a lot of good synergies. They have to go with the partnership model, and I see them like doing a good job. And by 2032, as Kevin said, 60. I have high hopes with that.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Wonderful commentary, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure speaking to all of you. Once again, my name is Cureton, Senior Journalist for XR Today. I've also had my colleague on, Rory Greener, Technology Journalist for XR Today. We've had an amazing lineup of people: Jay Latta, Amelia Kallman, Kevin O'Donovan, Aditya, Prabhugaunkar, and then Rory Greener. So thanks so much. I hope I didn't butcher anyone's name. But if not, I want you to have a wonderful day. And if you'd like to follow more conversations like this for the audience, please join us at the XR hashtag XR News. And you can also follow us at the Big News hashtag as well. So once again, Cureton signing off. Thanks for joining us. And until next show, bye now.